Hi. So I'm going to continue with the story of my 2018 flatmates stories, experiences, conversations that may be beneficial or of interest to someone. Yeah, the South American Sea. A couple of days after clarifying her concept from me, she asked me if I would accompany her to a Latino old people home in Rockdale, New South Wales. Since I was free on the weekend, so I agreed. She also invited me to one of the beaches. I am unsure if it was Manly or Bondi, later in the afternoon it was a get-together of Latinos, and that we'll have lunch at home and then we'll go ahead to the beach. So I hadn't seen Bondi Beach, so I said, okay, we'll go. So we met outside the facility of the old aged care, and we met a small group of other Latinos. So they were very happy to meet each other socially because they were all volunteers and they hadn't met each other but communicated on the group via internet only. Now we were supposed to, the leader of the volunteers told us that we are going to distribute a gift each to the elderly inside, and that was the purpose, to sit and have a chat with each elderly or one of the elderly, so that each one of the group member could sit with one and just listen to them and communicate and make the environment cheerful for them to remember, cherish, and look forward to. So this is what we were going to do inside the aged care facility. We were told not to take any photos inside the old aged care facility or aged care home. So because there were such gorgeous flowers outside the house, I asked C to take my photo, and she was very happy to take this for me. The living room was spacious and was L-shaped, and there were elderly sitting in each of the chair, but there were some stools and light handy chairs for the volunteers to pull up to next to the elderly. We were told by the guide that the elderly had their coffee and tea, and that they will have their lunch at 12, so we must leave before 10 minutes or 15 minutes before 12, so that they can make arrangement for the elderly to sit and have their lunch comfortably. I followed the group in the last because I knew that they were Latinos. The volunteers were also South Americans, and the old aged home was also of the South Americans or Latinos. So I followed them in the last, being a non-Latino. In the hall there were old ladies who were seated in groups, pairs, or alone, and I started to smile because the atmosphere was that of cheerfulness, probably because of the volunteers, because they were just greeting elderly in their own Latino way and getting warm and affectionate smiles back. And there were some elderly who were just sitting by their side doing what they usually do, irrespective who was entering and irrespective of being greeted. Because as I moved around the hall slowly greeting everyone, I came across a busy group of old women who were, huddled over the round table, and somehow it reminded me of a scene of a gypsies with the crystal ball in hand and the spell casting thing as in the movies, because they were just whispering and looking at me doubtfully and just sort of blowing through their mouth. And okay, I thought I better move on, and I did. I came across an elderly woman who had a cup in her hand. Perhaps she had a habit of drinking cold tea or coffee, and she was just looking here and there, and would just get lost in space. So I thought that she's alone, so I should say hello. So I bent a bit and said hello to her. She just looked at me, and then she smiled a bit, and then she said, "Oh, I haven't finished my tea yet." So I comforted her and pulled a stool nearby her, and I said, "I'm not here to disturb you or take away your tea. Please continue to have your tea. I just want to know how you are doing today." And since she was more particular about, finishing her tea in her own time, after a while I took her leave, and I said, "Okay, when you are finished, I'll try to come back." And I left. I still moved around to find a person I could sit with and listen to. So what happened was that during this time, sometimes I would feel happy when I would see elderlies smiling and chatting with Latinos in their own language, and sometimes I would feel very sorry at the pathetic condition of the elderly who were either alone or were just regardless of what was going around them, and did not make any effort to know what was going around them, or to be aware of what was going around. They was just lost in their own little cocoons. So I came across this woman in the chair, and I said hello, and she responded to me. She did not smile, but she responded. She said, "Good morning." And I pulled a stool beside her, and I introduced myself, and I said, "I am Mona. What is your name?" And she looked at me without smile, straight, with dull eyes though, and said, "I have a very old name." And I was still interested to know her name, so I said, "Oh, really? You have an old name? I would like to know how old your name is. And what is it?" And she replied, "How would you know? You're so young yourself." I couldn't help smiling. And I still looked up at her with interest and made eye contact and said to her, "Well, I may not be old, but I do have a little bit. I would like to know your name, please." And she said something that I didn't understand the first name, but the last name I understood was Farrell. And then I said loudly, Farrell. I totally forgot that I was, I would be disturbing everyone else. But I just kept my gaze on her, and with excited expression, I said to her, do you know there's an actor by the name of Farrell in Hollywood? And I think it's Will Ferrell who's done that movie, lots of movies, comedian. He's a comedian. So I further told her that he's a comedian, and he's done wonderful movies like Daddy, Stepfather, something like that, and Elf, I remember. And she just shook her head in negative, and she said, never heard of him. And I just wanted to keep her in the conversation. So I said, would you like to know the story? I can just give you a summary of it. She didn't give me any expression, so I kept on going and told her how he was taken by elves accidentally, and then he grew up with them, and then he was so big, such a giant, that he was eventually told that his father was in New York, so that's where he went to see his father, and the blunders and the comic things he did. Everything was so delightful to watch. And when I finished, and I was still smiling and looking at her with interest, thinking that she may have seen it, or maybe she might have liked the story, but summary, but she said to me, I have to go. And she got up and she walked out of the room. And I was like, what did I do wrong? Because I wasn't expecting that reaction. But you know what? You should be ready for any reaction from people, because you are going for a service, and you need to do the service to as much politely, with as much politely, kindness, and with a positive attitude as possible. And I just thought that maybe I spoke too much. But when she had gone, the attendant who had observed our interaction came over and said to me in a light tone, she's quite forgetful, so don't worry. And then I remembered, yes, some people are forgetful, and that we tend to forget, but there is a disease, sorry, I've forgotten it myself. It's with the elderly, yes. I then looked around, and I still saw everyone, all of the Latinos, chatting, laughing, and smiling sweetly with the elderly. They had, picked who were, giving them the response they wanted. And I thought, okay, I need to make myself useful. Well, I had volunteered at Sunbury Information Center for at the police community register, where vulnerable elderly are taken care of, and I used to love to talk to them on the phone. It was not a face-to-face one. It was we used to call them and ask them about their well-being, and then inform them about the seasonal changes and how to look after them. So as I looked around, I came across an old man seated in a wheelchair nearby. So I went up to him and I said hello, and he looked at me and he said hello and looked down, back straight into space again. Okay, well, if he's saying hello, I thought that he definitely knows English. So I pulled the stool beside him. So I introduced myself to him and asked him his name. He told me his. I moved on to how are you today, and he told me that he requested me, in fact, with a smile sparkle in his eyes. I suddenly saw his blue eyes sparkle, and he said to me, "Can you get me another cup of coffee?" And I was so delighted that he has asked me something that I said, "Why not? I'll ask the attendant straight away." He smiled, and I went over to the attendant and I said that the gentleman would like another cup of coffee, please. Where can I get him one? And he sort of discouraged me. He said, no, they have had their tea and coffee time, and they are going to have lunchtime soon in half an hour. So we do not encourage them to have something in between, so that they have the appetite to eat their lunch at 12. So I said okay, and I came back and I smiled at the gentleman, and he was looking, his eyes were expecting a positive response from me, but I just told him as politely and understandingly as I could that, oh, guess what, that you're going to have lunchtime soon, and if you have coffee now, it is going to take away your appetite. So how are you going to eat heartily your lunch? And he was disappointed, but his eyes were down and he understood. He shook his head. Obviously he must be knowing the routine, but he wanted a favor, and I tried, but of course they have their routine and pattern to follow, so I don't want to interfere in it. So I asked him about his family and what job did he do, and that put a sparkle in his eyes. He started telling me about his job, that he had a business of window cleaning, and that he had staff, and that he had family, and then he involved his son in the business. And I was really surprised. Such a accomplished man, and with business and with family and staff and everything. So what happened? How did he end up in an aged care on a wheelchair? So I asked him what happened. How did he come into the wheelchair? And he told him he had an accident. So there was a instance where he did not have anyone to listen to the customers' request for cleaning, and so he decided to go instead. And that's how he had an accident, because he hadn't been cleaning windows since a while, as he had aged. So he had an injury. He went to the hospital, and then from hospital he came to this nursing aged care, and that he just has little time left to go out of this aged care facility. So I was like very amazed, and I really appreciated. So I was really delighted to know how he was a sole naughty brother of, I think, 3 sisters, and that he had his own cleaning business. He was married with children, and that his son came annually to see him, and that he'll be back soon in his home. He was looking forward to going back to his place, and I hope all of them get better, because I felt pity for all those oldies over there. And thank God that my mom was safe with my brother, as she has mobility and balance problem due to osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. And it's a good thing that when I was in the backpackers, I met a Chinese girl who was there to visit Sydney and was very happy to tell us about her adventure of climbing the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And then she asked a question from the young girl from, I think she was either from Finnish or Danish, and I think Finnish. And she said, why do you people live with your parents, and then when they get old, you leave them to old houses? Because in China, we keep our elders with us in the family. And she said the Finnish girl was like, she was quite young. I think she must be like 18. She had been in commando training in her country, she told me, but she wanted to do something else. So she took a break and came to Australia. So she said to me, she said to her, to the Chinese girl, that, well, that's how life has always been in our culture and country. Parents, people get married, they have children, parents raise their children, and as soon as they are independent, well, that's it. And when they get old, that's where they go. And the Chinese girl was like pathetic, and she said, with concern, don't you think that your parents gave you so much attention and time of theirs, so you should also give your attention and time to them? A bit thoughtful. And then she said, well, I will visit my mom and dad. I'm not going to leave them just on their own. I will keep on visiting them. Yes, that's what I'll do, but I have to make my career, and well, that was it. Next, because it was going to be lunchtime soon, we were told to visit one of the inmates of the aged care home, because she had her birthday. So as everyone went into her room, everyone was smiling, cheering, and laughing, because as I entered the room, I couldn't enter actually, so I stayed in the corridor, but from the doorway, I could see that the woman who had a birthday was quite young, like say 60, not even 65, and she has lots of bouquets around and a few little presents, and she was delighted to have all of the Latinos, and how wonderful it was for everyone, her family and friends, to send her flowers and bouquets, and that she had some injury that she was, getting over with, and that she'll join her family soon. So it was probably a rehab center as well. Yeah. After that, I turned around, and because lunch preparation was in swing, I could see, while on my way back outside from the corridor, I just went outside and waited for everyone to come out. Outside is a bus stop, so there's a bench to sit on, so I sat on it. So when C came laughingly, she had another Latino with her, young and smart, athletic. So she said to me, let's go home. And I said, yes, let's go home. And then while we were walking home, it was walking distance from our rented accommodation, she asked me, Mona, would you like to go to the beach? And I said, sorry. Sorry, I don't want to, because I'm tired, number one, and number two, look, all of you are Latinas, you are happy to meet each other, greet each other in your language, and I'll just be, looking here and there for someone to speak English. She laughed so hard and she said, "Yes, I know, you found the man and you were very happy to sit with him speaking English all the time." Yes, we were laughing because I didn't let go of the man till it was time to leave. Yes, because, yeah. But then, that's what we were there for. We were supposed to sit with one of the elderly and, communicate with them, listen to them, make them feel good. And I remember when I left that old gentleman, he his eyes were so sparkling, and he was so much grinning and smiling because we have been laughing. Even I shared about my experiences with my brothers with him. So he was naughty, but not my brothers. We have a different lifestyle, of course, different country, different culture. So, but very supportive. And so he also had a good laugh. So he was really very excited, and I think he wanted to hug or handshake, but we were not supposed to do that. So I just bid him goodbye with a with a little bit of respectful gesture. Yeah. And yeah, that's it. I would not like any elderly to go into old home or aged care facility. Rehab is okay. You get well and then go back to your families. And families, please take care of your elderly, just like they took care of you.